correct. That's correct.
Big problems become big problems. You let small problems shift.
We heard what you want to do. Now we'll tell you what's best for you. That's the story from the editorial board. A little tip for the working man. Your employers are all our friends. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. We'd like to save the world when it's under attack. But how you gonna pay for that? When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah!
That's correct.
That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial.
Ben, do the Axl Rose ending. No. That's not it. It's. And okay. How's it going, everybody? Happy Friday. Shout out to Michael Girardi. That song, it's pretty badass. The editorial board. I said it once, I'll say it again. If you are in a band or you know someone who's in a band or you wrote a song, feel free to send it our way. BennyJShow@gmail.com. Michael Girardi sent us an email last night and said he was shocked to hear how much we enjoyed it. And he said he's got another song coming.
Oh man, keep them coming, Michael. That's awesome. I love it, man. I'll do an air guitar while the song plays.
Michael Girardi, you may come out pretty good out of this pandemic, man. You may come out with an album after this. Who knows?
We'll motivate him to write one song after another.
Yeah.
Maybe do some Bernie's Blues. Whoa. Get the blues because Bernie's out of the race.
There you go. You're looking for a new song idea, Michael. Benny's Bernie Blues. That sounds pretty good.
Bernie.
And maybe if you're in a band or you create music, maybe that inspires you. Challenge. Take the challenge. Send us a song. Okay. Let's get today's show started here. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, April 10th is just moments away. But before we get into this, we got to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this podcast. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors. Oh, we had a guest from that union yesterday. Isn't that right, Ben?
Oh, that is correct.
Jeff Johnson.
That is doubly correct, and he did a great job.
Go download it, everybody. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150 are sponsors. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, April 10th, live from Ben's house.
Yes.
Got to feel like it's going to be like this for a while. Is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, give us a Friday song of the day, would you please?
A little shout out to Johnny Cass.
Cass, the writer, not Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. I fell into a burning ring of fire. We'll get to Johnny Cass.
Can you just call him John Cass and then the singer Johnny Cass?
It just
Cash?
flows.
It's just very confusing for the
I know.
listeners.
It's going to be confusing when I do the script, too. Okay. a little shout out to Johnny Cash.
There we go.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Friday, April 10th. And live from Ben's house, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's the return of our good friends, political activist Laurie Glenn, and of Friends of the Park, Juanita Irizarry, over the phone. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Yeah, hello everybody, Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this MAGA Hat Friday. And here's why. Well, it's Friday, end of the week. I spent the whole previous week, days of the week that is, talking about my beloved Democrats. Mostly spent the time crying the blues, as in Bernie's out, and Biden's in, double Dennis sent me a tweet yesterday from Tara Reid, who has accused Biden of sexual assault, which is not good news for anybody, and except for maybe Donald Trump. And it just brought home the realization that it is going to be a lot harder than I ever realized to defeat Donald John Trump, even though he is arguably the worst president that has ever existed in my lifetime. I say arguably because George W. Bush, I don't know, a lot of you people are forgetting how bad George W. Bush was, okay? And Richard Milhouse Nixon. I know a lot of you are too young, don't even know who he was. He was the president from 68 to 74, and he was the one who would get drunk and stay up all night talking to the portraits in the White House.
Wow,
yeah.
That's what would happen if my dad became president.
Okay. Dennis's dad, Richard Milhouse Nixon, separated at birth. So anyway, the argument could be made that Donald John Trump is not even the worst president that I have lived through. That's an argument for another day. Anyway, I decided that the news was so bleak from the Democratic side of things that I needed to take a look at the Republican side of things. So I said to myself, what are the MAGA hatters up to? MAGA hatters, of course, are that strange lemming-like breed of creatures who would foul Donald Trump off a cliff if he commanded. Which led me to today's column in the Tribune by one, Johnny John Cass. Aren't you going to use the line now, D?
Look at that newspaper, everybody.
No, the other line. Wait, you talking about the singer?
No,
Johnny?
you did it right. Johnny John Cass.
Anyway, just to play that old joke. Oh, no, Dennis. Johnny Cash is the singer who sings, I fell into a burning ring of fire.
I mean,
yeah, and,
it's not really a gag. It's just I worry about our listeners. They think you're talking about the country singer and not the Tribune guy.
I'm too worried about my listeners every day, and so thank you for that clarification. Anyway, John Cass is the far right-wing columnist, wears the MAGA hat. He writes for the Chicago Tribune, and he is the answer to the following question that I get from my friends of the liberal persuasion all the time. And that question is, you actually read that mother beep? Folks, we're a family podcast, so no swearing.
Thank you.
And you'll also be surprised how many of my friends of the liberal persuasion have potty mouths. Anyway, yes, indeed, I do read John Cass. Read him all the time. My attitude, folks, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I have an open mind. I'm always open to the possibility that someone whose political convictions don't match mine may change my mind, D. How about that? If you could read my mind, love, I will. I don't know what made me think of that Gordon Lightfoot song. So, I read the Tribune editorial board.
I've just gotten so used to you. I didn't even think about the fact that you just sang some random song.
Which, nobody's ever heard of the Gordon. I love that song, by the way. Would have thought the thoughts could tell. Anyway, so, maybe they'll change my mind. Maybe I'll see something in John Cass's column or the Tribune editorial or old boy from the, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. Brett Stevens, New York Times, right winger. I read him all the time. David Brooks, read him all the time. Okay? Trying to, open my mind, right, D? Okay. So anyway, John Cass felt compelled to weigh in on what went down in Wisconsin on Tuesday. And I think if everybody's honest, what went down is this. Republicans did everything they could to steal an election. Come on, guys, let's just be honest. Let's just call it like it is. The Democrats were proposing, the governor of the state of Wisconsin was proposing to extend voting by mail so that people wouldn't have to line up and, potentially get the virus, potentially die to vote on Tuesday. And the Republicans went to court to block that, and they were validated by two rulings by the Supreme Court of Wisconsin and the U.S. Supreme Court, and it was all partisan rulings. All the Republican judges lined up one way, and the Democrat judges lined up another way. So it was, effectively stealing the election. The fewer people that voted on Tuesday, the greater the likelihood that Daniel Kelly, a far-right Supreme Court justice, would prevail in the Wisconsin vote. That's what it was all about. We all know it. If we're honest, we admit it. In fact, if I were the Republican, imagine this, columnist, I would say, yep, we stole it from you. Ha, 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 ha. In fact, as a Democrat, I'm always urging my beloved Democrats, guys, why don't you learn from the Republicans? The Democrats play that game. Oh, they're going to go low, we'll go high. And that's why Democrats lose. Democrats are always losing because Republicans are willing to lie, steal, and cheat, and Democrats pretend as though they're playing by rules. Democrats are harder on in their own party, the Bernies of the party, than they are on the Republicans. That's why Republicans love fighting Democrats so much. They're easy to beat. Anyway, for reasons I'll never know, John Cass doesn't want to own up to that. He wants to pretend like it was a legitimate reason. Like there was this great philosophical debate between Republicans and Democrats in Wisconsin. Totally ignores the fact that the whole thing was set up to steal the election. By the way, we don't even know if it worked yet. For reasons I do not understand. They haven't counted the votes. So we don't know if Daniel Kelly, the far right-wing Supreme Court justice, was victorious in Wisconsin. At least I haven't seen the results yet. I guess it's taking a while to count the votes. Who knows what's going on in Wisconsin? But, so he doesn't want to own up to that. So that's the funny thing about Republicans. They don't own up to their dirty dealings. Instead, he raises a couple issues, the gist of which are, let's get to them. A, the Democrats are mean and nasty and want to trigger a civil war. Yeah, that's what he says. And B, the media is unfairly tilted toward liberals. Ooh, there goes the train. Oh. Hey, Rom, how you doing? Sorry. I always get distracted by the brown line when it flies by with Rom at the wheel. Engine number 9. Anyway, let's start with the media thing. It's really funny for John Cass, a writer for the Tribune, with the page 2 real estate, to go on and on complaining about the media is unfairly tilted toward liberals. Dude, you are the media, okay? You are in the media. You write a column for a newspaper, and you're complaining about the media being unfair. That's sort of like Charles Barkley every now. He's been in the media now for 30 years. We'll say, I hate the media. Well, you're the media.
I hate the media.
Yeah. You ever notice that, Barkley?
Oh, they're terrible.
They're terrible.
I don't like the media.
It's like, Charles, you are the media. No. In his mind, he's still a basketball player. He's not been a pundit or whatever he is. Anyway, when Republicans, MAGA hatters, complain about the media, I call this working the refs, and this is a basketball reference, Dennis, but there's a political overtone, so please allow me to continue.
Well, and judging by some of the emails we've gotten recently, I think we have more basketball fans than we thought.
Isn't that interesting?
Shout out to Joan. She sent us an email for an interview idea, and it was of another Bulls writer.
Yes, I would love to follow her up and get the guy on. And by the way, Joe Colley was.
By the way, Ben's reaction was a habit. He couldn't believe it.
I was so happy. Yay! I did the interview with Joe Colley, Sun-Times beat writer, covers the Bulls. You can listen to it. Don't listen to it now, but you can listen to it. When did you drop that? About 2 weeks ago. Anyway, Colley had the story first, folks, that the Bulls were going to fire the general manager. But wait, this is called a tangent. Let's get back to the political basketball reference, D. Working the refs. What's working the refs, you ask? Good question, D. Glad you asked that question.
I didn't ask that.
Well, anyway, pretend you did. Anyway, working the refs is in a basketball game where one referee will complain incessantly about one basketball coach will complain incessantly about the calls that the referee makes in the hopes that the next call will go his way. You're kind of like getting to the head of the referee. The referee goes, oh, maybe I did miss that call. Maybe I know what I'll do. I'll even it out by making a call that goes his way the next time. Basketball players do this all the time. Have you ever seen LeBron James, D? Always complaining. The guy never fouled. He just got his hands in the air.
Never mind. I don't want to get into too much crazy basketball.
You wanted to go there. I saw that.
James Harden's the worst about it, all right? I said it there.
He could not resist. Something you don't know about the young doctor from Alton, Illinois. Huge NBA fan. He covers it up and hides it because it's a political podcast. He wants to pretend he's not into sports. But when we're not on the air, he's like, Ben, did you read about James Harden? Ben, did you read about LeBron James? Ben, did you read about whatever? Anyway, back to working the refs. That's what they do. They work the refs. They complain about every call that goes against them in the hope that the next one goes their way. And it works, by the way. It works not only with referees in basketball, but it also works in the journalism racket. It also works with Republicans because now you got all these reporters bending over backwards to prove that they're not biased. Here's what John Cass wrote. I'll read this. He goes, most of the media are liberal and support the Democrats. They loathe Trump and especially his voters. You know, is that true? Most of the media? It could be. I don't know if they loathe. Do I loathe Trump voters, D? You've been around me a long time. Who do I loathe more? Trump voters or Dems? Who do I don't know, I'm basically your typical liberal guy in the media. The difference is I admit I'm liberal, but who do I loathe more? Yeah, Trump. I like Nick Spizzato. He's a Trump supporter,
He's the man.
He's the man. Nick Spizzato. I love Nick Spizzato, alderman from Chicago.
Now you need to travel more. I think if you went down, maybe downstate or Missouri, and you probably have a better answer there.
I remember back in 2008 conversing with some drunken University of Iowa students who were for McCain and Palin. I remember this, trying to have a rational discourse with them. I didn't hate them. I didn't loathe them. They were really drunk, by the way. They were stinking drunk. And they were actually making some sense. In fact, I would argue they made more sense than most Tribune editorials. I guess you have to get drunk. Then you can really articulate well the Republican cause. But so anyway, I don't loathe them. Now we're heading into Romana country. Remember how Romana always says, Ben, you hate Rahm. I go, no, I don't hate Rahm. I just don't like his, I don't know Rahm. Anyway, so yeah, that's what they do. They whine and complain to the refs, and then they hope that it works. And you know what? A lot of times it does work. So now you got all these reporters so worried about being called liberal or so worried about, saying that they hate Trump supporters that they're like bending over backwards. So like say it's climate change or something like that. They'll go, well, 99% of all credible science in the world say climate change is real. On the other hand, Donald Trump says it's a hoax. Oh, well, you decide. That's how it works. Mainstream media. All the evidence is stacked up against the Republicans. Donald Trump says it's the other way. I got to show I'm fair and non-biased. That's how it works. That's called working the refs. Brilliant. That's another thing. By the way, I give Republicans credit for stealing elections and then finding different ways to talk about what went down so attention isn't paid to the stealing of the election. And I give them credit for working the ref. And then we get to the issue of the Civil War. And this touched upon one of my favorite themes. By the way, this is Chicago Tribune that I'm reading from, home delivered. So not only do I read John Cass, but I support him. You're welcome, John. Anytime you want to contribute to the reader, go ahead. Huh? I'm paying your salary.
So confusing. I love you. You're a douchebag. But you're great. Nice MAGA hat. I subscribe.
I do subscribe. That is a fact.
You're a whirlwind, Mr. Joravsky.
That's a home subscription you're hearing. Right
okay,
there.
people get it. It's a newspaper.
Anyway, where is it? Oh, yeah. He's talking about the Electoral College here. The left has been railing against the Constitution and legitimacy of government since President Donald Trump was elected in 2016. Democratic presidential candidates demanded an end to the Electoral College, even as they campaigned in low-population Midwestern states. Those states, like Iowa, could cede all power to the coast if the Electoral Colleges were abolished. Isolating the Midwest and South would grant hegemony to the high population centers of the coast, would trigger the fall of the Republic, perhaps cause civil war. Wow. All right, let me just clarify a couple things. Number one, he's alluding to the Electoral College, and the Electoral College is a system we have of electing presidents of the United States in which states like, just to pick a couple, Wyoming, Idaho, Mississippi, I'm doing more than a couple, Alabama, they have greater sway than big population states like California, Texas, Illinois, New York. So that effectively voters in Wyoming have more clout than voters in California. This is considered democracy. Under this system, it's possible for a president like Donald John Trump to lose the election and still gain the White House. I know of no system in any sphere of games, sports, whatever, where the loser is the winner. Happens in politics. And yes, I've been complaining about it. You're absolutely correct. But I haven't just been complaining about it since 2016. This is the second time in this century that it's happened. In 2000, it happened. George Bush won, even though he lost. And then he used 9/11 as a pretext to launch not one, but two wars in the Middle East. I'm just saying that, this Electoral College thing has been working against our democracy for now at least 20 years. And as I always like to say, imagine if it went the other way. Imagine if it were the Republicans that lost two elections in this century, even though they won the popular vote. Man, the Republicans would be out there fighting for the abolition of the Electoral College from the moment that Al Gore, in this imaginary scenario, defeated George Bush. In fact, know what? They're smart. Republicans would be smart. They would be urging everyone from Wyoming to move to California so you could tip the balance of the state. All right, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, Alabama, move to California. They'd be paying them to move to California, and that way they would reverse California, and California would be a Republican state. Hey, you know what, Democrats? That's actually not a bad idea. If only I can convince maybe, I don't know, a couple 100,000 Democrats to move from California, Illinois, and New York to Texas, those Republicans will never win another election. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed. Laurie Glenn and Juanita Irizarry will be here, but on the phones, right, D?
No, actually, they're coming over.
Here they come.
Brave souls.
Yeah, plenty of political discussion ahead. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
Hey, how's it going? All right, no horsing around.
We got to get down to business.
We got a lot to discuss before we get to today's news and today's interview, so let's do this. On Thursday's program, our host, Ben Joravsky, gave us another one of his top 5 lists. Wednesday, he gave his top 5 instead of Biden to run for president list. By the way, the jury's in. We've heard better lists.
Yeah, even I admit that.
Those 5 were Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, for some reason, Michelle Obama, Senator Cory Booker, although he never picked him to actually run for president, and Governor Andrew Cuomo and our Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
I can't remember why I had Lori Lightfoot on there. I had a good reason at the time, but I just can't remember.
I think it was the way she handled Haircut Gate.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think that's what it was.
Yes.
The way she handled Haircut Gate. By the way, can I just touch on that for a moment?
Thank you.
There was a... Please do.
Yeah.
I meant to talk about this yesterday. Is it okay if I interrupt you right now to talk about this? Yesterday, there was a letter to the editor of the Sun-Times, which sort of gets at how you have to deal with Lori Lightfoot in this day and age. And by the way, we're going to have Laurie Glenn coming on the show. She's already told me she's going to defend Lori Lightfoot. I've been a little critical of Lori Lightfoot from time to time. I basically think she's done a good job with handling the virus. We had a little fun with her about closing down the parks and how she did it. But I basically think she's done a pretty good job. Howard Ehrman's going to come on a little while later, and he's critical of Lori Lightfoot and J.B. Pritzker. Try to expose you to all different points of view. But anyway, there's a letter to the editor in the Sun-Times yesterday from a reader who lives in Des Plaines, loves Laurie Lightfoot, but was critical of her getting the haircut. She wrote, in my opinion, the mayor of Chicago is the best. If she ran for president, she would get my vote. Her reputation and ability to get things done is, as President Trump would say, tremendous and credible. But this thing about her haircut puts a bit of tarnish on her bronze statue. In other words, this, I think, is the new way you have to address Laurie Lightfoot. Just sort of like Republicans talking to Donald Trump. Like Michael, you're great, you're wonderful, you're beautiful. The sun rises and sets on you. That's how you have to do it.
Ken Davis?
Anyway, I just share that with folks. That's a pretty funny letter. Started off, I'm going to say something quick, but first I'm going to say all the wonderful things about you. Anyway, that's why I put her on there, because I think she's done a pretty good job being in charge of the city at this time.
So once again, his top 5 instead of Biden: Laurie Lightfoot, Michelle Obama, Cory Booker, Andrew Cuomo, and J.B. Pritzker. By the way, New York Post put an article out. Ben, they may have heard your list on Wednesday. A majority of Democrats want to nominate New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for president instead of Joe Biden. This is according to poll results shared exclusively with the Post. The national poll found 56% of Democrats prefer Cuomo, with 44% wanting to stick with the nominee Biden, a 12-point margin, well outside the 4.8% margin of error for the Democratic sample. Hispanic voters, young people, women, and self-identified liberals are most likely to favor dumping the former vice president for Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
This poll, conducted April 3rd through 6th, was commissioned by the conservative pro-market Club for Growth. Oh, you sound like you're a huge fan of that group.
No, I'm just now suddenly dubious of the
They
poll.
generally support Republican candidates.
Yeah.
Cuomo denied last month that he wanted to run for president, but some Democrats still are clamoring for anything besides Joe Biden, who faded from public view during the coronavirus outbreak, which elevated Cuomo in daily press conferences.
Yeah, all right, let's just break that down. It's a poll done by a conservative outfit, and it's published in the New York Post, a conservative newspaper, a MAGA hat-wearing newspaper. So you really have to question the credibility of the poll. And generally what I'd say, that is an attempt to sort of, really gnaw away at the divide that I've been talking about all week between people like myself and the Democratic Party. Try to exploit the feelings I have. So like, oh yeah, I'm not alone. Yeah, run even further away from Joe Biden. So I don't know how valid that is. I don't, listen, all the Biden supporters that I talk to, and I talk to a lot, are sticking with Joe. And they're always, Ben, stop complaining. Ben, fall in line. It takes a little while, doesn't it, D? It takes a little while. I'm a little skeptical about that poll. I think it's some kind of Republican scam. They're up to no good.
It's funny because people were a little skeptical of your list on Wednesday.
Oh, well, come on, the list. What a beautiful list. Yeah, that list was at the height of where I was really feeling, no. That was right when Bernie announced that he was that right before or right when? I can't remember now. Did Bernie announce, had he already announced that he was stepping down?
Yeah, that's why we did the list.
Yeah. Well, no, I've been thinking of that list for a while, even before Bernie stepped out, because it's pretty obvious to me that Bernie Sanders was not going to be the nominee. It was pretty obvious to me that the overwhelming majority of voters in the Democratic primaries did not want Bernie Sanders to lead them. That's why I didn't put Bernie on the list, because I think it was unrealistic to ask Democrats to accept a man that they voted against to be their leader. So anyway.
So we did that list on Wednesday. Highly debatable. Good times, though. Everybody went on the live stream chat and on Facebook and gave the business to Ben. Good times. So Ben thought, hey, let's double down on this. He gave us another list on Thursday. It was his top 5 vice presidential picks. And I'm looking here on our Facebook page. That list was Stacey Davis Gates of the Chicago Teachers Union, former presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren. It says here Val Dennings was one.
Congresswoman from Florida.
Kamala Harris, and then Stacey Abrams. Those were his 5. Ben, how you feeling about that list today?
I like that list.
That's a pretty good list. A lot better than that last one.
No, I thought the presidential list is okay. JB just ahead of Cuomo. The attitude in that list is that you'd want a governor who has shown competency in the midst of the crisis, because the crisis is the overwhelming issue that we're facing at this moment. It's not only dealing with the health considerations of the people in this country, trying to get us through this dangerous pandemic, but also what to do in the aftermath in terms of getting us out of a recession or depression even. So you want somebody who has empathy and compassion and believes in science and is rational and logical and can handle high pressure situations. And I think the governors are showing they're on the front lines in this thing, so they're showing a lot. And that's why I thought it might be a good idea to put a governor in there. But it looks like the Democratic Party is going to stick with Joe Biden. So.
All right, so before we get to today's news, let's read the comments that people sent us on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page. You can do the same, by the way, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on both Facebook and Twitter. Also, feel free to send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. Oh, and I got to find it on my phone. I'm going to give it out before we end the show today. We have a phone number. I got us a phone number.
I did not know
that.
Yeah,
I told you last week.
I forgot.
We have a bit. Surprise.
Wait a minute. So people can call us right now in the air?
Yeah, well, not right now because I got to give the phone number. I got to go look for it. But I remember I did that last weekend while being extremely bored. We have a phone number. Yeah, I think it's a 708 number. Turns out 773 and 312 numbers are taken. But yeah, we have a Ben Joravsky Show phone number. So that'll be cool. Maybe you can leave us a voicemail. You can prank us or something. That'd be fun. So let's read these comments from Facebook. I'm going to give that phone number out to everybody before we get out of here today, maybe at the end of the program. But quite a few of you weighed in on Ben's vice presidential list here. Well, first off, Stacey Davis Gates' brother, Henry Davis Jr., weighed in. He said, "You guys just won't quit. SDG has my vote."
Henry, I had to put you on the list, okay? Henry Davis, of course, a councilman from South Bend, Indiana, comes on the show from time to time. Very critical of Mayor Pete. Had probably as much influence as any citizen of South Bend in sort of exposing Mayor Pete's issues, if you put it that way, euphemistically, with black residents of his town. Anyway, I had to put you on the list, but Joe Biden made it clear that he was going to select a woman. So I took your sister instead, all right?
He doesn't make a lot of things clear, but if there's one thing that he made clear, it was that, okay, guys?
If he goes back on that,
I said that?
I should, what?
Yeah, that's horse pucky. I didn't say that. All right, shout out to our good friend Candace Castillo. She weighed in as well. She said, you missed a few. What about Delia Ramirez or Jeanette Taylor?
Okay, thank you, Candace. I dealt with Jeanette Taylor. I love Jeanette Taylor. She's a frequent guest on the show, the alderwoman.
JT20.
From the 20th Ward. I just, Jeanette, she comes on the show. She lets has she ever dropped the F-bomb?
Yeah, more than likely.
I love Jeanette Taylor dearly, and I would wholeheartedly vote for her for vice president, but I just think she might be a tough sell for the proverbial swing voter in Wisconsin. So, of course, Stacey Davis Gates may be a tough sell for them as well. But I love Jeanette Taylor.
Our friend Jennifer went on the Facebook page and weighed in with her thoughts here. She says, my guess and vote is Stacey Abrams. I've been thinking this for a few weeks now. I don't think Joe Biden would pick a candidate that ran for president.
That's interesting. If Joe Biden were to pick Stacey Abrams, that would be a bold move on Joe Biden's part that I would never see coming. So like I said yesterday, if I had to put money in Vegas, I'd put it on Kamala Harris. She makes a lot of sense but I love Stacey Abrams. I love the way the campaign she ran. She was defeated, but what a long shot campaign. She was running for governor of Georgia 2018 against Brian Kemp, a hardcore MAGA hat wearer. Bizarre. Remember those commercials he had? These really bizarre commercials featuring guns and pickup trucks and threatening the boys that wanted to date his daughter or something. And or am I mixing him up with Ron DeSantis, the hardcore MAGA hat wearer?
Sounds like you're mixing it up with a country music video.
No, this was Brian Kemp. I think it was Brian Kemp. We riffed on this. It would be like with the young man is coming to court his daughter, and Kemp was loading a gun while he talked to him. The kid's blah, blah, blah. Make sure you get my daughter home on time. Anyway, Stacey Abrams did really well in that race, so I love Stacey Abrams. But my guess is he's going to go with Kamala Harris. And as everybody knows, I was drinking the Kamala Kool-Aid for a while, D.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I remember that. The summer of 2019.
I like Kamala Harris.
Hey, Steve, what's going on, man? Steve weighed in on the Facebook page. He said, Amy Klobuchar would be my pick. What do you think about Amy Klobuchar as vice president?
Well, Amy Klobuchar, I don't think she ever cracked my top 5 when I was ranking the
I mean, that didn't matter with Cory Booker. You picked him to replace Joe Biden.
That's true. Good point. Good point there. But I'm just saying she never cracked my top 5. I never really warmed up to Amy Klobuchar. She seems so eager to undercut any idealism that a Democrat might have. And she did this, in the guise of talking about how we have to be realistic. And so we can't say things like, I want Medicare for all, because it's unrealistic. She was echoing Joe Biden there. So, I know she's really popular with mainstream Dems. They really like her. I know, like the columnists for the New York Times love her. In fact, the New York Times editorial board endorsed her. There was a tie, remember? They couldn't make their decision between her and Elizabeth Warren. So I wouldn't be surprised, actually, now that you raise it, that Joe Biden takes her, but that just seems like doubling down. You know what I'm saying? She's cut from the same cloth as Joe Biden. If you take a Stacey Abrams, you got somebody from the left that could perhaps satisfy the lefties out there, like me, And Kamala Harris, she's a black woman. And so I think that would be a way of showing appreciation for like the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, the voters who like elect Democrats in really, without their votes, Democrats would not get elected, is what I'm trying to say, such as Doug Jones down in Alabama. So that's why I would take either one of those two over Amy Klobuchar.
All right. Well, you mentioned Kamala Harris. Jill, she posted on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Jill says, my money is on Kamala because she's a dino like Joe.
It's how my lefty.
I love our listeners.
Lefty listeners are hard. They're hardcore.
You guys are awesome.
I would say that Amy Klobuchar. First of all, no, I'm going to defend Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris. They're Democrats. I've been following Kamala Harris's Instagram feed in the last several months. She's really a powerful voice against Donald Trump, his policies. And and she has been for a while. So I know when you say that she's Dino, she's a Democratic name only, probably alluding to her time as Attorney General in the state of California, and her reluctance, the fact that she prosecuted people for on marijuana laws, which is really hypocritical, and is a leftover remnant of the insane war on drugs. But it's possible to be critical of what a Democrat has done in the past, and it's possible to be disagree with a Democrat on this issue or that, and not just like say they're not a Democrat. I mean, I think she falls within the boundary of being a Democrat, and that's just my opinion.
All right, and the man who inspired this top 5 vice president list, our good friend Bab, weighed in. Bab says, I like Val, at least what I saw of her in the impeachment hearings. She's a great pick, great angle. Florida, of course, I know less about her than Stacey Abrams, but it's going to be Elizabeth Warren. No one cares that she's 70, says Babs.
First of all, a shout out to Bab. He was the one who got us going with this. He suggested after I did my top 5 picks to replace Joe Biden that we come up with the real pick. And he's absolutely correct. Bab is absolutely correct.
That's correct.
The reality is it's a long shot. That fantasy I had on Wednesday, D, when Bernie stepped down, that Obama would go up to Biden and say, do your Obama imitation.
Barack Obama?
He would do it just like that. That he would go to Joe Biden and say, Joe, maybe it's a good idea to step aside. That's not going to happen. Joe Biden's going to be the candidate. I know you have some clips of him we're going to be playing and listen to him. And it sounds like he's sturdying himself up. So he's going to be the candidate. And I just got to get over that fact. So Bab said, come on, Ben, get over that fact. Deal with the reality. The most important selection is vice president. And many of our guests and listeners are saying that. that if Biden's a weak candidate, it's hugely important that he nominates somebody that could give confidence to the American voters that there's someone of stable and sound mind in the White House. I mean, it's kind of cynical, but that's the underlying message that they're getting at. And so Babs was absolutely correct. He got us thinking about that. I don't know much about Babs. I mean, other than, as Bab pointed out, I thought she did a great job during the proceedings, and it put her on. I just started paying attention to her a little bit, reading a little bit about her background. And she really, literally is a cop. She was the police chief of Orlando. So I know, a lot of lefties who just don't trust police at all. I'm not cut from that cloth, not like that at all. And I liked her, put her on my list.
Well, apparently Babs got the word on the Georgia streets as well here. He says, I've also heard progressives in Georgia say that they don't recognize the Stacey Abrams we're talking about. She wasn't even the progressive Stacey in the primary. That was Stacey Evans. So if you're thinking Abrams is too far to the left of Biden, word on the street is she's not.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I play the litmus test game as much as anyone, particularly in local Democratic politics. Like you'll have I don't follow. I know you think this is funny, it's coming from me, but I used to really obsessively follow every single ward. Okay, so I knew all the candidates. I've kind of lost track of it a little bit over the years. So I could tell you, well, this one was wrong on that issue. This one was right on that issue. This one was a little close to Rahm. You know what I'm saying? So you draw these distinctions and try to figure out who is better than the other, more perfect, more ideal than the other. And you get a little caught up in that. The reality is that every single one of these candidates is a vast improvement over the Republicans, in my humble opinion. And if there's more liberal or lefty or progressive candidates in Georgia, the reality is that Stacey Abrams is a black woman running statewide. I thought when she got 47, 48% of the vote is very impressive, showing her ability to relate with voters, connect with voters. So I was impressed. I don't follow Georgia politics to that great degree to knowing who was absolutely the most progressive in every issue, but I was impressed.
So there you are, everybody. Thanks for weighing in to all those who reached out to us on the Facebook page. You can do the same at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Oh boy, that top 5 list got a lot of popularity there. Ben, you got any ideas for another top 5 list?
No, I was asking you the same thing. You're the one. No, you were the one who told me about Babs. That's how it came. I always give you credit, but it was actually Babs. Hey, man, nope, I'm open for him. Top 5 list. Top 5 Democrats to replace J.B. Pritzker if he becomes president of the United States as governor. There we go.
Whoa, that's a future one there. That's a future one.
Remember when I did the top 5 list of women that I was hoping would run for governor? Remember that issue back in 2018, D, when there were no women running for governor?
You weren't fired yet. I remember that. Yeah. The radio days. The AM radio days.
Before I got fired.
Phone calls. By the way, we do have a phone number, and before, I just don't have it on hand right now. I literally just remembered it when we were on the air. Before we get out of here today, I'm going to give everybody our Ben Joravsky Show phone number.
How about doing some imitations of some of the old callers? Just one or two.
Hey, come on.
All right, I guess that would be.
Remember Adler?
No, do them. Come on.
What do you want? You talking to me? Yeah, we're talking to you. Adler, you're on the line. You talking to me? No, the other person named Adler. Huh? I don't like red baiting.
He was always mad at me because I actually believed the investigation into what Trump did with the Russians was warranted. I mean, somebody hacked those computers. Remember Adler? That's red baiting.
On our bike rides home, I would always do the Adler voice for Ben. We're breaking the fourth wall here. I would always do the Adler voice for Ben when we would ride the bike. Hey, you talking to me? And so I would tell him, because Ben, you are still new at the radio thing, right? So I would always keep you on your toes. And I said, hey, man, there's going to be a day where I just throw an Adler bomb at you. And you're like, what are you talking about? And so one day I knew we had Adler on the line. And I don't think Adler's ever going to listen to this podcast.
That's a podcast.
Yeah, I don't think Adler's going to listen. All right, we're letting the Adler cat out of the bag here. He would call in. Our show was, 2 until 5, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
He would call in at 2:05. Hey, let me on the air. Like, all right, hold on, Adler. And I would just keep him on hold till 4:50. Sometimes he wouldn't get on, and he would hang up and call me back. God, hey, damn it. What's going on? Get me on here. Adler, hang tight. And so there would be days where I knew he'd be sitting on the line, and Ben would be like, hey, D, man, what do you got for me? I'm like, no, nothing much. How about Adler? And I would just hit Adler real, huh? You talking to me?
Oh, yeah. Good times. Yeah, Adler
Ben would
got,
lose it.
we have Mr. Bike on. Remember, he didn't like Mr. Bike?
Oh, yeah, he didn't like Mr. Bike. He didn't like Take Your Pick. He didn't like any of our guests. I don't even think he liked me.
No, he liked you. He liked you.
He
He
did
did like you. So anyway, Dennis would do, just so you know, Adler wasn't the only one he would imitate. Did a whole array. Pretty much everybody at that radio station, Dennis would do an imitation of.
All right, local news. Let's talk about it. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
And he'll be addressing that big problem this afternoon at 2:30 with his COVID-19 press conference. Yesterday, it seemed like things are looking up. Let's hope the trend continues. Go watch it, 2:30 if you live in Illinois. Turns out more informative and less mind-numbing than when our president does these things. So, yeah, go check that out if you're looking to get some information. And although things are looking up, the citizens of Illinois did receive a bit of bad news on Thursday during his Thursday COVID-19 press conference. Governor J.B. Pritzker suggested that summer festivals should be canceled. How do you feel? What comes to mind when you think of that? Summer festivals.
Lollapalooza? Everybody knows I'm not a big fan of summer festivals. This the front page of the Sun-Times has it all. You see this picture, D, of Lala, and come on.
Oh, look at all those Lollapaloozas.
But what a headline.
Bummer summer. Whoa. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. If there's a question mark. Bummer summer?
Let's see what the Tribune says. Here we go.
Chicago Sun-Times, bummer summer?
All right, Tribune's headlines. There you go. Read their headline.
Governor warns of fests. You know what? I got to hand it to the Sun-Times finally on this one. That was a good.
Finally, they beat him every time.
No, they don't.
Governor warns of fest versus a bummer summer in the Sun-Times, and then it shows all these. I don't even think they're millennials. No, they're millennials and.
Let me see it.
Zillennials.
Zillennials. Those are so many millennials. That's a group of millennials right there. Bummer summer?
Bummer summer. Hipster types, just really enjoying Lollapalooza.
So what are festivals that you enjoy that when you hear this, summer festivals canceled, what are you not going to be going to this summer?
Well, I think I told you this. I like to go to there's a Monday night. Dennis is laughing already. Oh, my God.
You told me this off the air. I wanted you to tell it on the air.
Yeah. But, just repeating myself here. The Monday night concerts at Millennium Park, my wife loves those. I go with her sometimes to those. And the Jazz Festival, love the Jazz Festival, and World Music Festival. So there are some festivals that I like. How could I forget? Like Taste of Chicago. I'm going to really miss this. I got a feeling Taste of Chicago will be canceled as well. Taste of Chicago has like Geezer Night. Most of the acts are for younger people, but Geezer Night, like they had George Clinton last year, and I just love, like if you, when they bring the Geezers, the Ozzy brothers, they had the Ozzy brothers who went and saw that. I know Dennis is laughing. Oh my God, these old bands. Who else did they have? The OJs. We saw the OJs. Man, OJs. Isley Brothers, George Clinton. I love Geezer Night at Taste of Chicago. So I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss Geezer Night at Taste of Chicago.
Anybody listening surprised that Ben loves Geezer Night?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. The George Clinton concert last year was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. And George Clinton, I don't know how old he is. He's got to be in his 70s now. He doesn't really move around much. He just kind of stands there and waves his arms a little bit, but he's got a band it's a fantastic band, and they're young people. I'm surprised. Wow, young people
it's
playing.
Like Ozzy Osbourne. It's when Ozzy Osbourne plays, he just like waves his hands. Oh, boy!
Yeah, George Clinton that's kind of what he does. He's just wearing this full-length robe, and he's just kind of wandering around. I'm just assuming he's just stoned out of his mind. He's smiling.
Boy, the parallels of Ozzy Osbourne and George Clinton.
Well, I wouldn't make the comparison because I'm not a fan of Ozzy Osbourne, so I don't think I can name one Ozzy Osbourne song. I only know him from that TV show.
You can name one Ozzy Osbourne song, can't you?
There's the one that somebody else covered that I know. What's that one?
Crazy Train?
No, I can't name it. There's
My Mom Coming Home?
Nope.
Mr. Crowley?
Never heard of any of these.
Doesn't know any of these.
Any of these songs. But I love George Clinton. And so George Clinton killed it last year. And man, the OJs were awesome at Geezer Fest. So yeah, I'm gonna really miss Geezer Fest.
Boy, he's going to miss Geezer Fest, guys.
You know what it's like old people get to have every now and then, oh, we're going to take care of the old people. Oh, thank you.
Governor Pritzker said, quote, I do not see how we are going to have large gatherings of people again until we have a vaccine, which is months and months away. I would not risk having large groups of people getting together anywhere. That's hard for everybody to hear, but that's just a fact. And boy, the governor's not lying. It's pretty hard to hear, especially when we're just 4 months away from one of the most epic Springfield State Fair concert lineups imaginable. Too good to be true, I guess. Puddle of Mud, LL Cool J, and Toby Keith. It's not going to be happening.
I can't name one song by any of those three.
Come on, you can name an LL Cool J song. Mama Said Knock You Out. You know that song. I'm going to knock you out. Mama said knock you out.
Wow, you did it so well. It just brought it home. No, I'm sorry. I don't know any. Dan, 1980 is kind of the cutoff line. So
Earlier in a separate briefing with reporters, Chicago Mayor Laurie Lightfoot, she signaled a similar message, saying, quote, we're not going to be comfortable coming out of these closures until we have a better sense that we're going to be able to do a much larger scale of testing. Lightfoot warned that some countries saw, quote, a huge spike in cases after lifting draconian closures that helped bend the curve. So we're going to be extremely cautious before we will lift anything here locally. If you remember, yesterday she announced liquor stores will be closing at 9 p.m. But what that means, it'll be one strange summer, according to Shia Campos in Illinois Politico. But when this madness recedes, hopefully we'll take some comfort in knowing that maybe we helped save our neighbors.
yeah, I think the summer festivals are through. I hate saying it because I know people love them. I joke about it, but when the Lollapalooza is going on, man, it's easy to get around town. It's almost like there is the virus. Remember that, D? Like no traffic anywhere. So, yeah, I'm mourning for you, Chicago. I know this is tough for you. People love summer festivals in Chicago. It's not my thing. I'm like kind of walk along the lake type of guy.
Oh, shout out to Kyle Young on the live stream chat. He says, what's the mosh pit like at Geezer Fest? It's a great question.
That is a great question. But you'd be happy to know, Kyle, that at Geezer Fest, people have been doing social distancing long before it's fashionable. Like, don't get near me, all right? I'm old. I don't want your germs. But I'm going to tell you something. It's like something happens at Geezer Fest where they hear the old music. And, like Atomic Dog, George Clinton's group does Atomic Dog. And these guys, we may be in our 60s and our 70s, but all of a sudden, it's 1973 again, Dave. We got it, okay? Look at this. So, yeah, Geezer Fest, and when that music hits on, people really come back to life. They lose 40 years. Just like that. But no mosh pits. Good question.
Geezer Fest.
Can you imagine George Clinton letting the crowd ride him? The old people, my back just came out.
A crowd surfing.
Crowd surfing at Geezer Fest.
Oh, hey, guys, I have our phone number, all right? The Ben Joravsky Show has a phone number. Maybe we'll do calls sometime. Ben loves phone calls, by the way. That was his favorite thing when we did the show on the radio, wasn't it?
I like phone calls.
You're lying to these people right now.
I mean,
You are lying.
I always much appreciate any guest that comes on my show, but everybody I prefer the being live, looking at the person across a table, being able to look in their eyes and have a more meaningful conversation. We do it as best we can through Facebook Messenger here, but the phone call, so let me correct you there, young Dennis. When Monroe would come on, Monroe Mondays on the old show, and he would engage the Republicans and the MAGA hat wearers. That was
Mitchell. Shout out to Mitchell.
It was so, because I'll tell you what, Monroe can take them down. And then remember they got scared. Oh, he's good. He's scary. So and they were okay.
Well, we're going to give the phone number out right now, everybody. The Ben Joravsky Show phone number. And that's nothing catchy like 708 Benny J or anything. 708 658 4788.
All right, hold
that
on.
number again, 708 658 4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. Oh my God. You're kidding me. He just called the number.
Sorry, everybody. Wow. Hello.
That's really funny.
I got a million of them.
But it worked. We're not lying. That is our phone number. Call us up. Maybe not right now, all right? It's a little too new, and I kind of got freaked out. Like, oh my God, what do I do?
God.
I need practice at this, all right? Maybe leave us a voicemail. That was really funny, Ben. Ben called in.
I got a million of them, ladies and gentlemen.
Catch him.
It's Zanies.
Yeah, once this is all over, he's coming to... Maybe
I'm going to do Geezer Fest. You know,
Oh.
I'm going to be like the comic on stage before George Clinton. Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Hey, let's get a mosh pit going. All right, let's move on to some city news here. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Tommy Two Joints Shuba.
Tommy.
That's right, Chicago Sun-Times reefer writer. We call him Tommy Two Joints. It says here, wife of clout-heavy builder pushes to ban all pot businesses from her Gold Coast neighborhood. Patricia Walsh, whose husband heads the Walsh Group. Ben, you ever gone into you know about the Walsh Group?
Yeah, Joe Walsh. Hotel California, remember that song? Hotel California. Joe Walsh, man. Rock and roller.
That's probably not.
Oh, that's a different Walsh group.
Not
yeah.
Patricia
Sorry.
Walsh, whose husband
No, of
heads...
course I know about the Walsh Group. They're a very cloud-heavy construction entity here in the Chicago area. Oh, yeah.
Patricia Walsh is seeking to create a restricted cannabis zone that would stop legal marijuana sales from an affluent swath of the Second Ward. Ooh. Ben, for 10 trivia points, who's the alderman of the Second Ward?
Come on, Brian Hopkins. Duh.
Who do I work with?
That's correct.
Who was the alderman before Brian Hopkins?
Ice Cube. Okay, the wife of a
Bob Fioretti.
The wife of a clouded Chicago construction boss.
Ice Cube.
It's my answer for everything.
By the way, next Friday, great movie. Go ahead.
All right. The wife of a clouded Chicago construction boss has launched a petition drive to keep pot shops out of her affluent Gold Coast neighborhood. And she's relying on a provision in state law that allows the city to ban all, that's A-L-L-all, recreational weed businesses from entire precincts in the city. Patricia Walsh, who's married to the Walsh Group co-chairman Daniel Walsh, filed a notice of intent March 3rd with the Chicago City Clerk's Office to prevent any weed businesses, including dispensaries, cultivation centers, and pot transportation and infusion operations. Probably want me even riding my bike by there with my weed in my backpack, from opening in a patch of prime real estate that stretches from Division Street to the North Elm Street to the south, Lakeshore Drive to the east, and Clark Street to the west. In her bid to stop cannabis businesses from opening, Patricia Walsh must now circulate a petition and collect signatures from 25% of registered voters in the precinct by June 1st. Yeah, with a pandemic, good luck, Patricia Walsh. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts?
That's a good point. Well, first of all, this brings back memories of stories I used to write back in the day where there were fights over trying to make a precinct liquor free. So I remember fights like this back in the day. So let me just start with the obvious. That's the law gives neighbors the right to enact this provision that would prevent cannabis stores from operating within their district. Okay? So let me just state the obvious. She's just following the rules as they've been laid down, and they were laid down in order to give some kind of local control. All right? Let me just get that out there. Having said that, let me say this. Give me a freaking break. You know, just what do they think is going to happen? You know, I mean, this is like, if they could, they would just make the whole a gated community. You know what I'm saying, D? A giant gated, nobody's allowed in here except for us rich people. So, no, I have no sympathy for them. I don't see the threat in a reefer. And by the way, it's not like people in that area don't smoke reefer, don't take edibles. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'll tell you what, folks. let's have the law be if you don't allow a reefer store in your midst, you're not allowed to smoke it. Oh, wait. Hold
Okay,
on.
now hold on.
Hold on.
I love
now.
Logan Square. Now I like taking my visits there.
Yeah, so we're just going to have other neighborhoods be the spots we go to buy our reefer. Come on. What are you guys scared of? I mean, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what, it reminds me of a time. I shouldn't even go on this tangent here, but there was
Tangent.
There was a. It's not. It was like a store. I can't remember the name of it, and I probably don't want to say the name, even if I could remember the name. But they sold sex toys and stuff, and the residents in the area. I remember they called me up. They wanted me to write an article saying how outrageous it was that this store was there. What were their kids going to think? And I'm like, I didn't know what to say, D. I'm like, do you realize what's on TV right now? What your kids are exposed to all the time? Yeah. I'm like, what are my kids going to think? There's a sex toy store over there. I don't know. And then the lady who was leading the charge ended up moving to the suburbs. I'm sure there's sex toy stores in the suburbs. So I don't know, this notion that you're going to be protected somehow or other. Just have the reefer stores in Logan Square. We'll go there, like you said, D. But not in our neighborhood. Why don't you just put a giant gate around it, okay? Nobody's allowed into the Gold Coast anymore. So your basic point is a good one. It's going to be really tough getting 25%. By the way, it's not my understanding, I could be wrong in this, but if it's anything like the rules governing getting precincts dry, voting precincts dry, the other side has an opportunity to challenge your signatures and your petitions. So it's not like, the reefer dealers are going to go down without a struggle on this one. So I don't know. Listen, it's in the rules. They're within their rights. But I think it's ridiculous.
Walsh did not respond to repeated requests for comment about the effort, though she is a member of the Gold Coast Neighbors Association, which has been helping collect signature. A quote, strong majority of residents in the area, which is a few blocks from where Illinois pro-pot Governor J.B. Pritzker lives, oppose allowing proposed weed businesses in the area. That's according to Association President Vern Broders. We have, or Broders, I don't know. We got a quote from Broders. The quote here, quote, we just don't believe it belongs in the middle of our residential neighborhood. Broders told the Sun-Times last month, adding that pot businesses could, quote, give rise to more crime in the area.
Yeah, that's more crime. By the way, you're going to let deliveries? We had Sonia Harper on the show yesterday, State Representative Sonia Harper, Pride and Joy of Englewood, talking about her bill that would allow deliveries, from legal deliveries as opposed to the kind that Dennis gets all the time from, his dealer. Just kidding. No,
really. You're not. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to my local weed dealer, man. Hey, buddy, as long as you're still selling it, I'm still buying it, buddy. You and me till the end.
Nickelbag Bernie, I think is his name. Anyway, so, are they going to allow deliveries? Again, I'm sure a lot of the people in this area, a lot of the people who are signing this petition are probably smoking the stuff and taking the stuff. Maybe they don't want to have to schlep all the way out to Logan Square. Maybe they want to take advantage of deliveries. So they got to wait. Are they going to allow deliveries, D? Or just are deliveries going to be banned within your area too? I'm saying if you don't allow the store, you shouldn't allow deliveries. You're going to have to get up and go over to Logan Square. I'm tired. Have the guy come in.
All right, so we're going to put a button on that, and I hope you fail. I hope you guys fail. Just to
it's going to be tough, though.
Bluntly.
But you're absolutely correct. In this day and age, getting people to sign wow, that's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough.
Like, guys, it's legal. You could put up shops. Quit trying to do this weird thing you're doing. I hope you all fail.
Yeah. The views and opinions of Dr. D are not necessarily those of the Ben Joravsky Show. But in that particular case, I'm with you 100%.
All right, we're going to keep you informed on these stories as today's program rolls right along. It's about 2 o'clock, so I guess we're going to get to our interview here with Juanita Irizarry and Laurie Glenn. Guys, we hope you have a great weekend. And don't worry, we got Benny J bonus interviews coming up this weekend as well. So hang tight. We'll be right back. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. And yes, we're live from Ben's house. Maybe, do we hear the brown line coming? Oh, I was going to say, maybe we can open up the window real quick.
No,
Wait
but
a
I'm not making this up. While you were talking, you didn't see it. Our friend in the flip-flops and the camo jacket.
Oh, Pink Flip Flop Man.
He made an appearance, but you were busy reading.
Oh, what was he doing?
He's actually, I'm not making this up, jogging. But
Doing a little alley jogging, huh?
he's getting in shape.
Oh, my goodness.
The things I see in the alley.
I don't mean to say bad things about Pink Flip-Flop camo jacket guy, but what kind of shady person jogs in the alley?
You know, like the movie Rear. Do you ever see Rear Window, D? Rear Window, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Never
Alfred
seen it.
Hitchcock movie.
Writing it down.
In Rear Window, which is a great flick, I urge everybody to run, don't walk to see it. Jimmy Stewart plays a photographer who is confined to his apartment because he has a broken leg. And just, he's locked in there. It's like he's constantly looking through his window into the building across the courtyard from him. And he's just paying attention to what's going on. And the things he sees, not giving anything away, involving a certain actor named Raymond Burr, who played Perry Mason. Anyway, I feel very Jimmy Stewart-esque, sitting up here in my attic, looking out at the alley and watching what people are doing in the alley. It's bringing back Rear Window. Great flick, by the way.
So make sure you go download our Benny J bonus interviews Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's about 5 in the morning, I think we dropped those. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. And wherever else you download your favorite podcast. I got the window cranked open here. Once a week, we're going to try and do this, all right? When the brown line comes by the train, hopefully it's coming by. Does it sound like it's coming? No, that's
Wait,
an
is that an airplane?
Yeah, that's an airplane. Damn.
Wait, hold on. Choo-choo. That's the Metra.
Yeah, Ben lives right by the Metra and the brown line. Great
Got a
podcasting studio
twofer.
we got here.
Yeah.
Good times. All right, so... Damn, I was hoping the brown light would come by before we ended this. I guess we're going to just take a break here, guys. If you haven't heard the new song yet, our good friend Michael Girardi reached out to us and sent us an email. The song is called The Editorial Board. He said he's going to send us more songs. Like I said at the opening of the show, I think by the end of this pandemic, old Michael Girardi's going to have himself a full album, all right? Wouldn't that be cool, Michael? Man, you'd be the most productive dude in this whole thing. All right, let's hear the editorial board. Weigh in with your thoughts, and when we come back, we're going to have Laurie Glenn and Juanita Irizarry.
Try not to rock the boat. Don't wanna give you all false hope. That's the story from the editorial board.
That's correct.
The candidate most likable is somehow not electable. That's the story from the editorial board. We'd like to save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that? Ow!
Hey, everybody. How's it going? We're back. All right. Let's reach out to our guests, Juanita Irizarry and Laurie Glenn. Ben, what are you guys going to be talking about here?
Bernie, Biden, Lori Lightfoot. What else? Donnie Trump. Laurie Glenn was very. When I was talking to her before the show, she had a lot of nice things to say about Lori Lightfoot. So get to hear what she has to say.
All right.
Hello.
Laurie, Juanita.
Hi.
Is that Laurie?
Hi, John.
Welcome to the show.
And Juanita?
Thank you.
Is Juanita there as well?
All right. We got them both.
I'm here.
All right. Laurie Glenn, Juanita Irizarry, come on the show. You guys come on about once a month. And I first invited you. Was saying it was about, I've lost track of time. It was to sort of defend Lori Lightfoot, as I recall. That was the first one. So, and then you just did such a great job. I've been bringing you on ever since. Love talking politics with the two of you. And Juanita, I just got your text, so I just want to say my condolences to you. There's been a tragedy. Someone died in your family, and I appreciate you coming on, doing the show right now. So my condolences to you and your family, and I appreciate you very much still doing this. So
Thank you.
You're a real trooper.
And wave of emotion come over me, but I'm here.
Okay. All right. And there you are. Literally, well, there's Laurie. And Juanita's. It's so funny because I'm not going to really tease Laurie too much, but Laurie and I are of the baby boomer persuasion. And when she heard that was Facebook Messenger, she had that moment of panic, like, wait, how does this work? Oh no!
Hi, here's me with all my gray. For those of you who can't see me.
Juanita she's
looking good.
Juanita, you are a spring chicken compared to me, that's for sure. And Laurie's a spring chicken compared to me too. She's younger than me. But anyway, the moment of panic, I could hear it in Laurie. Wait a minute, what is it? Laurie, I've been there so many times, okay? My kid set up this virtual phone thing. I was like, huh, what? Right now, like my computer doesn't work. I'm always, Dennis, can you fix the computer? I'm busy. So anyway, anything you want to promote or talk about? Just, Laurie, you're very involved in all kinds of political things before we get into the issues of the day. But anything you want people to know about your world? Any messages you want to shout out right now?
Yes, well, I am, again, given this horrible moment in our lives, all of our lives, I have been working on this project I've told you all about. Partnership for Safe and Peaceful Communities is our client. And working with communities partnering for peace and Chicago Cred and Ready Chicago. We are moving what we had dubbed Peace Chicago 2020, which was happening the first week of June, and are moving that to September 21st through the 27th, which is very exciting. I totally wish I had not put my picture on because now I'm looking at myself, which is highly distracting.
You look beautiful.
Don't worry.
But, I will say that I'm very excited. Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lightfoot, has agreed to continue to be the honorary chair. It will be, we will continue this whole week of activities starting Monday the 21st. And shout out to Juan Salgado, the head of the City Colleges, who's going to continue to support this effort with the Chicago Peace Summit and help to pay for it, which we are grateful for, as well as the Chicago Tribune, as well as WTTW and Expo Chicago, Tony Carmen, our great arts exposition in the world, and other players have agreed, WTTW have all agreed to join us, as will many others, but we're just recreating the week now and just found out we could move this. And hoping that we'll be one of the first weeks that have public events as well as virtual events, and we can reconvene as a community. And we're sort of broadening this a little bit because really Peace Chicago was about peace in the sense of physical peace, of public safety and anti-violence and anti-gun violence. But I think our work is always, the groups we represent are all about trauma-informed work. And now we are really dealing with trauma every day of our lives. And this will be about peace of our body, mind, and soul as we heal from the trauma of COVID-19.
Wow, just thinking about getting out of this traumatic moment. I'm hoping that by September, we'll be back to something relatively normal. We were talking about how the possibility, the reality that many of the summer concerts will be canceled. That's been the story of today in the front page of the paper. So I'm hoping that we will be able to go about our regular lives by September, but who knows? Juanita, in your day job, of course, you're executive director of Friends of the Parks, and we always make a point when you come on the show, you're speaking for yourself, not for the group, right? So let's just get that clear.
That's right.
And let's just talk about the parks right now. The things that Mayor Lightfoot put the ban on going to the lakefront parks after that first really nice day when hundreds of people flocked to the parks. Talk about this. First time I can ever recall, ban, you can't go to the lakefront parks. Wow. These scary times.
It's a tough issue. Personally, I had just come home from a vacation in Florida as things were shutting down here in Illinois and Chicago. And I had personally witnessed beach parties of spring breakers while I was already personally kind of plugged into the idea that coronavirus was a thing and that we needed to wash our hands and be careful and start the social distancing thing. So within that context, for me personally, watching pretty big crowds in Chicago's lakefront, I could understand why the mayor would feel the need to close them down, even though it's tough for Chicago's psyche to not have open access to our lakefront. It's our personality as a city to recognize that is our jewel and our treasure, and it is part of our individual health, physically and mentally, but it's also an important public health issue that we not congregate. And we've shown repeatedly that we can't stay away from the lakefront if left to our own devices. So, it really stinks, but it's the right thing. On the other hand, if I could have been at the table, I might have asked, to see the data about whether some of the South Side lakefront sites were having the same problems as the North Side sites. There are some very underutilized South Side lakefront spaces that probably were not the problem at the time, right? But we as Chicagoans need to collectively recognize that this is not a normal circumstance and we got to cope in other ways. We are, however, super thankful that other parks are still open because they are an important part of our getting out of the house on rare occasion, for health reasons, mental health and physical health reasons. So it's crazy times.
It is a crazy time. Juanita, when you go about the city and you see people playing soccer or playing basketball, this is one of the things that Mayor Lightfoot responded to, and it sort of triggered her. It's like disbelief. Like people don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, they think that they're immune or they have special license. The same actual day that the lakefront and the 606 got shut down, and I live very close to the 606, my husband had gone for a walk in another park away from the 606 because we had found it too crowded. And we saw a few guys playing soccer and we saw a few guys playing basketball. And to be honest with you, I don't know if those four guys playing basketball were brothers and all live in the same household and they were so isolating, but I didn't go ask them, and we stayed away, right? But the truth is, even if they were doing something appropriate, it looks to others like it's probably not the right thing to do. And that inspires other people to do the same, right? So, we do see now that there are basketball nets being taken down in at least some of the parks in Chicago because people continue to go out and still try to play contact sports. So people need to not do that. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for the people they go home to. And we all need to care for one another right now.
Well, I hope that.
So,
Well, I hope that when this crisis abates, they'll put the basketball hoops back up. Okay,
Absolutely.
they just don't use an
Absolutely,
excuse to
yeah.
take the basketball hoops down, which was a problem in this city in
Right.
terms of taking basketball hoops down back in the '90s. You were going to say something,
Well,
Laurie?
and let me just say there are some places where the basketball hoops have been down for a long time and haven't gone back up, and that is a real issue too. So we do need to watch that.
Laurie.
So I think that this is obviously a larger issue of the fact that we're seeing also in the Black community in particular, even more than in the brown community and certainly much more than the white community, the COVID-19 is really impacting and killing people of color at a faster rate. And the Chicago Tribune has an editorial that just went up that Laura Weber wrote. And Autry Phillips from Target Area Development Corporation and Matt DiMatteo, who's the executive director of New Life Centers, Denise, our group. Target works in the Auburn Gresham community, including the Village. And really, the editorial starts with Autry Phillips' frustration eating with these young guys. And he's talking about these young men, they're shrugging off the coronavirus pandemic, gathering on street corners. He said there's I pull up and there's 90 guys just standing around, no masks, no gloves. This is hard for me. I'm asking them to please stay at home. And they say to him, well, we're going to die before we're 25. So why should I care about coronavirus? My life isn't worth anything. And this is horrifying as a city. And this is actually not just in Chicago, as we know. This is happening in cities across the country. This divide between people of color and quote unquote white people. And it's also obviously a class issue. So I think that we have to be thinking about the fact that whether or not people are gathering in parks, and no, we don't want to see our beloved parks shut down, but if people aren't valuing themselves and their own lives, and what have we done to these young people that they don't think they're valued or of value?
Yeah, that's a disturbing story that you just told. A very bleak and nihilistic attitude. But given the reality of life in Chicago, I can see why people might have that notion. The one thing I was teasing Lori Lightfoot about with that proclamation when she closed the park, I had a little fun with it. It was that it was completely predictable that Chicago would react the way it did. Because when that first day of beautiful, it was a beautiful warm day. It was like the first nice day in a week or so. And Juanita, I think you said you were out of town, so you weren't here. You know how that transition is in the city of Chicago. You have a rough winter, maybe 2 weeks,
Yep.
You're sort of locked in your house, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get a nice day. And it's just the impulse to flock outside. It's so classic Chicago because we deal with this every year with winter. And I just teased Lori Lightfoot by saying, there might have been somebody in the city hall with the weather app on their phone, so they would have known that it was a nice day. You might have been a little preemptive because she acted as though it was so shocking that people would be flocking to the lakefront. So just gentle teasing of our mayor and having a little fun there, pointing out the obvious that, they got to stay on things too. It's not just blaming all Chicagoans for what they're doing. That said, Laurie, Glenn, you're very complimentary of the mayor and the governor. Talk about that. You think they've done an outstanding job running things since we've hit this pandemic.
Well, let's just be clear that we start with who's the person on top that I don't ever feel like I want to call him our president, but when you look at the lack of national response and the coordination that we would have all expected to see from someone who's called the president of what is called the United States of America, and when he has forced states to be competing against one another for equipment to deal with what is a national pandemic or international pandemic, but certainly national. We have not received clear answers, clear direction, and certainly clear leadership from him or his team. And except for, of course, our beloved Dr. Fauci, who we are so grateful to have there, somehow still being there, as they say, he's the Trump whisperer. But I have to say that J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Lightfoot have shown tremendous leadership at this time. Sorry, I am a fan. And, you know, I've not been close to the J.B. Pritzker's people. I've not been a part of their Pritzker team. You know, I actually know Juliana Stratton and a bunch of the deputies there, as I know Juanita does as well, Sol Flores, Christian Mitchell. I like these people, but I've not been a part of Team Pritzker per se. But boy, I've joined now because he has come out strong. He's provided the kind of leadership that we need. He has, whether or not we need the 1,000 beds at McCormick Place, I'm glad they're there, that he's getting the ventilators. For those people who are being naysayers saying he's only focused on Chicago, that's not true. He has been focused statewide to provide what the citizens of this state need. And, you know, Lightfoot has done a terrific job. As we know, she's hilarious. Who knew our mayor was so funny? And I'm glad to see her using that humor because, as other people will say, I'm scared shitless of her at the same time. Like, you don't want Laurie Lightfoot mad at you. I mean, seriously, she's like pint-sized but powerful. And like, she really, you know, like, I would not want to see the eye of Lightfoot on me. Like, mad. So I think it's hilarious and wonderful to use humor to get us to stay the fuck home. Just stay home. Like, I'm home. Here we are. Here's a bedroom. I'm home, sitting on the ground with my like back pillow and trying to be ergonomic. And you know, believe me, nobody likes this, but we all have to do it. And thank God these two people are saying, stay the fuck home. Now, I've only said fuck, now 3 times.
Yeah.
But before,
That's a podcast.
sorry, buddy.
It's a podcast.
If you were running for state's attorney, Bill Conway would have a commercial about this, and it would be bleeping
Okay.
you
Well,
out.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not
Be in
running,
trouble.
And it's okay, dokey. That's why I'm a consultant.
So Juanita, do you share Laurie's views about the mayor and the governor?
Absolutely. I do think the memes are fun and cute, and I'm glad the mayor has a sense of humor about the memes and has, you know, been keeping it light to a degree. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious, and it's even glaringly obvious as we contrast with what we're seeing from the White House, that our local and state leadership have been strong, as have many other governors, and they've had to step up to the plate without any coordinated federal response, as there should be. So, and, unfortunately, we're not surprised because we know who the guy who we don't want to call president is, and true to his ways of doing things. Every single thing he has done. Even when he did something right, it was a day late and a dollar short. So thankful that we have the leadership that we have locally, even if, personality issues or other things aside, they've been strong leaders through this time.
All right, let's shift gears to the national front. And Laurie Glenn, you were a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. Bernie dropped out at the start of this week, and Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. So, general thoughts on this?
Well, we're definitely, Joe Biden is the guy, and I am going to do everything I can to get him elected to be president, since we haven't had one for almost 4 years. So we need to have someone strong in there. And we know there's going to be a woman VP and hopefully a woman of color. And they're dangling that in front of us now. So we'll find out shortly. And I was reading this story in the Washington Post today that says, well, who's going to fill the Bernie shoes? Because the next election, he'll be 82. So we don't think he's going to be running again at that point. So you never know with this guy, I have to say. But it's sort of pointing out whether or not there's really any ongoing social movement that came out of Bernie. And that's absolutely ridiculous, because clearly Bernie ignited an entire generation to become engaged. And actually, here in our home state of Illinois, I want to call out and shout out to Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia. Hey, Chuy, wherever you may be, at that he went on the Bernie train early on, over 4 years ago, and he was a surrogate all across the country for Bernie, and that helped catapult Chuy into the national limelight, as he also ran for mayor. And in the past 4 years, as he then became our beloved congressperson, he used his coattails to build an entire team of powerful Latino leaders across the board. Juanita, you can help me here probably with some of their names, but Aaron Ortiz and others who's just eluding me at the moment, a senior moment. But amazing group of young, powerful Latina leaders. And that is as a result of Chuy using his coattails and the power of his role and the work that he's done with Bernie Sanders, who has invigorated, I believe, the whole town. And look at, we have a slew, at least 6 of them, Democratic Socialists on our city council, who are wonderful, powerful young leaders, and we can go on from there. So I think that Bernie Sanders has had a tremendous impact on both policies of our country and the policies we will have in our country, as well as the growing young leaders that he motivated and activated to become our next generation.
Juanita, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, he's been very clear in his messaging that this is a movement that's about us, not about him. And again, as Laurie mentioned, there's lots of exciting folks here in Chicago who have been encouraged, if not initially inspired by Bernie in particular, and who have, been really, made their way onto the scene in the last 4 years. And that's just Chicago. I'm sure there are many stories like it all over the country. So it'll be interesting to see kind of who really rises to the top of that space in the next few years.
Well, I have to tell you that I'm a little disappointed. I'm working through it. On many levels, I'm disappointed, but I'm working through it, Laurie, Glenn, and Juanita. I'll tell you, there's so many things that disappointed me about this primary season. But one is this notion of Democrats being so pragmatic that they are constantly looking for candidates that they think are most electable, as opposed to looking to candidates who are championing the themes that they believe in and that reflect their values. And this pragmatism that is at play, I think is sort of self-defeating, because if you continually undercut your message, if you continually dilute your message, if you constantly say that we can't accomplish the things that we think and we know that we need to do, like Medicare for all, then you'll never get it. And it's like a defeatist mentality. And so now everybody's supposed to embrace Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden spent most of this electoral season dismissing the reality, dismissing the possibility that we can ever get the things that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren champion. And so I find that a little disappointing. It's not that easy for me to jump aboard the bandwagon. I will vote for whoever the Democrat is. But it's not that easy for me to jump aboard the bandwagon. I think this is self-defeating. I've never heard a Republican talk about, let's say, like, what's the universal thing that binds all Republicans? Oh, tax breaks for wealthy people. I never heard a Republican say, oh, that's destructive. That'll cause deficits. We won't be able to afford government. Wealthy. I never heard a Republican dismiss tax breaks for wealthy people the way so many Democrats dismiss national health care. And I would argue that Medicare for All, national health care plan, is far more important and necessary to our country than anything the Republicans have come up with. So I got to tell you guys, I'm a little disappointed at this point in time.
Right. Well, I mean, it's understandable. I mean, as somebody who has supported Bernie Sanders, and I voted for him in the primary, and I've spoken about my support, I have gotten a lot of pushback from people who think I must be really stupid. It's really kind of extraordinary, the things that people have said to me when I say I actually support Bernie or I support his policies. And then they go into a diatribe about all the things, Ben, you just talked about, right? And that even AOC says, gee, it's like, I'm an extremist because I think people should have health care. I'm an extremist because I think people should have education. I'm an extremist because I think people should have jobs or access or equity issues. And then people are like, but there's nothing extreme about taking all the money that we have in funding and putting that into the military industrial complex, and that's okay. Or there's nothing extreme about Jamie Dimon making $50 billion or $50 million or whatever he gets, which is an obscene amount of money for any CEO to get. So I get that. It's very painful to then have to then sequester oneself into the Democratic Party, so to speak, as like, oh, now I'm going to be part of a group of people who made fun of me.
Yeah.
But we have to, like, seriously. I mean, I don't know that I share values with all these people who think I'm not that smart because I think Bernie was a brilliant candidate, and that last debate when he and Biden spoke, that I was just so fearful that Bernie Sanders, I could tell at that time, was not going to be the Democratic nominee, and he would never be our president. And I was sad because Joe Biden's an okay guy, and I think Joe Biden will make a good president. But I think Bernie would have been great. And that's just my feeling. But I think Ben and Juanita, we all have to get on this Biden wagon or train, because our ambivalence, I was at my Zadar, my Zoom Seder the other night with my friend Nancy Alexander. Shout out to Nan and her husband Steve and Nia and Miles. And Nia, I'm like going to talk about you, Nia. So now you guys are going to have to listen to this podcast. But she is a 20-some-year-old woman of color who said, I love Bernie and I'm not in love with Biden. And actually, it was interesting to watch Steve argue that as an African-American male of a certain age, closer to my age, that he was all for Biden, and watching this intergenerational battle go on over our Zader was hilarious, actually. So,
Juanita, how do you see it? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I don't even know if I've fully processed it all, because this whole COVID thing took over our lives. I keep going back to my trip to Florida. While I was getting on my way, I took a road trip, and I was, chatting online with friends in Florida who were, talking about how they saw the Bernie versus Biden race from, the point of view of Cubans in Miami or Puerto Ricans in Orlando. And, I literally on my way to Florida was saying, oh my word, there's no way Biden can be the person who wins and the person who comes out as our president. And by the time I was on my way home, I was like, well, Bernie's out and, I guess Biden's the guy. But as I watch my friends talking about these things on Facebook, I would say a good portion of them will vote for Biden, but they're not going to work for Biden. You know, they don't see the folks in that space valuing them and what they believe in. They see a lot of belittling of them personally or their values by folks on the Biden side. And they say, well, yeah, we got to not have Trump, but I'm not going to knock on doors. I'm not going to go do a bunch of work for Biden. So it's a scary time. I'm not convinced Biden is going to win this election necessarily. I do joke, and maybe, you know, in morbid ways, that governors in Republican states that don't want to shut things down during the coronavirus crisis might do more to help Biden than anybody else. You know, as my church-going brethren go see each other for Easter and then, you know, give each other coronavirus. So, you know, it's sad that that's really kind of where things are at here in this country.
All right. And
Right.
the other thing I get all the time for my friends of the pro-Biden persuasion, and I have some, is that what really will matter, Ben, is the vice president. We've discussed this a lot on the show. Yesterday, I came up with my list of the 5 vice presidential candidates, and I ranked them from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to my first that I was hoping Joe Biden would take. And I limited it to women because Joe Biden has promised that he was going to select a woman. Now, if he breaks that promise, they should really remove him from the nom. I'm already kind of hoping I had another list before that of the 5 people I want to see replace Joe Biden as the nominee. Laurie, I'm really struggling with the Biden thing. I'm working through it in my own way, you know, but I'm really struggling with the Biden thing. But I'll get there. I usually do. So I have my list, and I'm curious to hear who you two would like to see Joe Biden select. So I guess I would say, who do you think he's going to take, and who would you like to see him take? We'll start with you, Laurie.
Actually, I'm not really sure right now who he's going to take. I have to be honest. I'm not sure where he's going with it, but I guess, you know, my favorite is Stacey Abrams because I just really like her, and I've been following her for a while, and I like the project she's been working on about disenfranchised voters. But I understand that I'm not sure that she's going to be enough in terms of what she would bring electorally, because I think basically if I was Joe Biden, what I'd be thinking about is who is going to bring me the most electoral college votes at this point. I mean, isn't that what it's just all about? I mean, forget the popular vote. It doesn't matter if he gets 10 million more votes, but they all come from New York and California and Illinois. It's just not going to matter. We have to get the electoral college. We talk about this every time, Ben. So I'm going to say, who do you think, from an electoral point of view, would actually bring home the bacon?
Well, you know I love you. You know I love you dearly, Laurie Glenn, but I think you're falling into the same trap that I was just bemoaning. And this is how Democrats think. And the notion is electability and who's the best person for the game. And I think when you fall into that trap.
Right now, Ben.
Wait, let me just finish let me just finish my point. And so I've lived through enough of these things. I remember a certain vice president named Al Gore. Thought he was really smart. He's going to take Joe Lieberman because Joe Lieberman was going to win him Florida.
No,
guess what?
A terrible decision.
Yeah. So, you know, like electoral colleges, I'm not feeling that. So, you know, like think of okay, if you're going to do it that way, you would look for someone, let's say, in Texas. Because if there was a nominee that Joe Biden could find from Texas, that's a huge state to flip. You flip Texas, it's all over. And not only that, but it could be for
Richard could come back from the dead. That would be great.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anyone out in Texas who can flip Texas. So you go back to Florida. What Juanita was saying, you know, you find someone in Florida and so I had Val Demings on my list. She's a congresswoman from Florida. She managed the impeachment proceedings Nancy Pelosi tagged her to manage the impeachment proceedings against Trump. So, that's that strategy. But I'm not really a big believer. I know that's the game that the political operatives play. I just personally am falling. I feel that's the same mentality at stake with what Democrats did when they decided it was a good idea to select Joe Biden in the first place. And we're just like doubling down on that, the whole electability issue. What do you think, Juanita?
I was just thinking that uncharacteristically, I have not talked to Laurie Glenn since the last time we were on the show together. But I was going to say Stacey Abrams. And I don't know. I don't know if any woman from Florida or woman from Texas have enough visibility to be the right person at this time. I don't know. Maybe there are things I don't know. I'm sure there are things I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he has said it's going to be a woman, definitely narrows it down to
Michelle Obama.
Yeah. Well, she has said repeatedly she doesn't want that job. So, yeah, I don't know. We shall see.
Well, I
don't feel it could be Kamala Harris. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think the American public said, we don't really like you that much, Kamala. Go on.
Well, the American people said the same thing about Joe Biden in 2008, and Barack Obama took him. In 2008, Joe Biden was, I know people forget this, he ran for president. He ran against Barack Obama. He got clobbered. I don't think he made it out of Iowa, and then Barack Obama took him. Mm-hmm. So the American people have a short memory of these things. It's funny you should mention Michelle Obama. On my list of people that I would like to see replace Joe Biden, she was number 3. Of Michelle Obama. I didn't have her on my list of VPs. We're all in agreement. I, too, had Stacey Abrams as my number 1 that I would like to see him.
All right.
But the one I had number 2, and the one I said I would put money on Vegas that he would take, was Kamala Harris. And the reason I said that, Laurie and Juanita, is I felt that I really thought it was important to have a black woman on the ticket, not just, just send that message. And the Democratic Party, let it be clear where the Democrats were coming from. I just thought that was really imperative. And I may have been one of the few Dems who emerged from last summer's debates. I was drinking that Kamala Kool-Aid for a while. So, I'm one of those few lefties that likes Kamala.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you would like Kamala, considering your point of view. That's interesting to me. But what we didn't talk about is why would you think he would be thinking about the first black lesbian mayor of Chicago?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. My list of people that I would want to replace Joe Biden with, number 5 was Lori Lightfoot. I said she was my number 5 choice to replace Joe Biden. My number 5 choice for vice president, I was having fun. Well, if I got to have Lori Lightfoot, I got to have her counterpart in Chicago. So I had Stacey Davis Gates from the Chicago Teachers Union. I love Stacey. Everybody knows I love SDG. But
that would be a wild and
what a ticket!
Ride.
Lori Lightfoot and Stacey Davis
Never
Gates.
a dull moment. You got lots to talk about.
Going at it.
Wow.
Yeah, that'd be a great ticket. I don't know. Lori Lightfoot, man, I don't think she could stand being number 2. Joe Biden would make a joke about her haircut, and it's all over. All right? Hey,
No, split ends.
don't talk about Lori's haircut, okay?
Yeah.
No. All right, I'm not going to
She
do it.
would mess him up. Oh, man.
So anyway, we're all in agreement. All right, come on. Stop ducking and
No,
dodging.
but I got to tell you, you know what, though, Ben and Juanita, we all have to, I'm sorry, because I work in gun violence, anti-gun violence, but we got to bite the bullet here. Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who is the worst thing that has ever touched our presidency, our democracy. We are now dealing full on with, oh my God, Boris Johnson. I talked to Ben earlier. It's like, how much do I hate Brexit? But Boris Johnson gets on national television in Great Britain, and he says, everybody stay home.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't talk about the economy. He doesn't talk about who should live and who should die so he can remain prime minister. He's like, stay the fuck home. Then he gets
That's 4 times.
virus, and now he's in the hospital, and I'm like, oh no, please don't die. I'm rooting for this guy and thinking I'd rather have him be our president because at least he had the common sense and the decency, the humanity, and the understanding that human life was worth more than his re-election campaign.
All right, I guess we'll leave it there. We got to get going anyway. I want to thank Laurie Glenn for coming on, and Juanita, I really triple thank you for coming on at this tough time, and my condolences to you and your whole family. God bless you. Thank you for coming on. Juanita Irizarry and Laurie Glenn, 2 good friends of the Ben Joravsky Show. Thank you very much for coming on. Also want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this would be possible. Yes, back home in Alton.
I'm looking. Hold on a sec. Wait. Oh, yep. The sign language person is out.
Yeah,
Pritzker's giving his press conference. Let's hear some audio from the sign language person. Oh, they're good. Oh, wow. Listen.
Back to the sign language jokes.
They're good.
All right, very good. Back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Hey, everybody, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews like this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. We got some bonuses coming up this weekend. Scott Duff, he hosts a show on the radio station Ben got fired from, WCPT 820, out Chicago, Sundays 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. Scott Duff and Ben Joravsky give a Tiger King review. That'll be interesting. Miles Camp Lassen will be this weekend as well. So make sure you go check those out. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download podcasts. Go subscribe. Tell your friends. We'll see you Tuesday.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
We got to get down to business.
Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
That's correct.